The 4% rule, their withdrawal rate.
People think, oh man, I did such a great job. I have $1 million in my investment account. Like, I'm set. It's not actually the case.
Even despite higher returns, why is it 4% versus 6%?
Really, you have to think about it like this. You have
4% rule could actually be higher if you have
each financial decision is not in a silo by itself. It has to be looked at how it relates to something else in your plan. And most people are not looking at the big picture.
This is John Smallwood, and I am back on the Money Isn't podcast. And this afternoon, I have Rob Marks, who is a certified financial planner and a wealth advisor here at Smallwood Wealth. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to dive into a topic today of something that's called the 4% rule. Okay. This applies to people who are retired and their withdrawal rate. Mm-hmm. So you picked this slide today. Why did you pick it?
So I picked it because, we talk about retirement and saving for retirement, and people think, oh man, I did such a great job. I have $1 million in my investment account. Like, I'm set.
My portfolio is making 7-8%.
Yeah.
I can withdraw. And then 6%.
Yeah. What's my withdrawal rate, right? So, and even let's say the 6%, right? So you saved up $1 million and 6%, that's $60,000 a year that you could take out of this thing to last till retirement. And what the math kind of shows is that that's too heavy of a withdrawal. Even going, so 6% I think lasts till, if let's say you were 65, somewhere in your early 80s. Now, let's say you did 5%. So that'd be 50,000 based on that million.
Yeah.
It's lasting until just shy of 90. Right. And we talked about in another podcast that if you look at, married couples and life expectancy, that about half of the couples will have at least one person by age 90 still around. Right. So to 6% and to 5%, the plan's failed.
And if they were healthier, like non-smokers, it's like 73% or something like that.
It's going longer.
It was going a lot longer. Yeah.
So the reason I picked this slide is because people have an expectation that if they saved, $1 million just as a mark, they're set and they can just withdraw whatever and it'll all be fine. But when you look at the math and you really just run different simulations and run through the math, it's not actually the case.
There was a rule. It was like the Bill Bangin or something like that was the guy that created the 4% rule. And when he created this was actually a very long time ago.
Yeah.
It's almost 20 years ago. It might even be longer. I did a whole other podcast on it. I forget the exact date that he started it, but why is this? Why is 4%, even despite higher returns, why is it 4% versus 6%? Like, what is the factor here?
So really, you have to think about it like this. You have lifestyle costs that have inflation. There's the return of the market, right? You've told me from your dad, right? There's, drawing down a portfolio is one thing, but drawing down in a down market really sucks.
Yes.
So, it's really that 4% versus the 6 is just trying to make the money last. And something important to add whenever people do these withdrawal calculations is that they are just saying that there is $1 left in the plan by that. And that is considered plan success, which is
definition of success, $1.
Yeah.
No, that's like failure.
Yeah. So if there's any alteration, you buy, an extra piece of candy at the movies, essentially, like it's all over, right? So
your kid needs $1,000. Boom,
yeah,
you're out of money early.
But more seriously, when they look at these plans, they're running through the math of saying, here's the portfolio, here's what it returns, inflation on a lifestyle cost, and we'll take this amount out and it's fine. But as we've discussed before, there are other factors that go into the plan. There's changing tax rates. There's unexpected, one-time expenses. And there's long-term care, which is you're making it towards the end of retirement and you're already withdrawing in the portfolio. That portfolio is done.
And this slide doesn't even factor that in.
No. This is purely just can the money work? Can it work?
Yeah, a 40-60 portfolio. So it means 40 bonds, 60% equities. Historical performance numbers on this is 20. This is the period that they're using on this. I looked at it earlier and I forget. It's a 30-year rolling period. So ending, and it goes back from it's 67 of the rolling periods. This is great. Historical ending wealth at the 4% initial withdrawal rate, 1928 through 2023. Mm-hmm. So greater than 0 there's a 85% probability of having money with the 4%.
And not factoring any of the things that we just talked about, taxes, long-term care, any of that.
Having greater than $1 million is only a 66% chance. Mm-hmm. So the odds of all those rolling periods say you're not going to have more than 66% of the time you have over $1 million, but 34% of the time you don't.
Yeah.
All right. To have over 2 million, which most people's spreadsheets are showing, it's 50-50 at the 4% withdrawal. But we know if we push to the 5 or the 6, the odds of running out of money go up exponentially. Smallwood Wealth Management is the lead sponsor of this podcast. You have an opportunity to have a free, no obligation conversation with one of our qualified advisors. Go to smallwoodwealth.com, schedule a call, or call us at 800-797-1000 and get on our calendars.
And remember, think of it like this. If you're taking, let's say 4%, it was 40,000 out of there, and lifestyle costs are going up, but your 40,000 is going to last, but your lifestyle costs never make that adjustment. Your withdrawal doesn't make the adjustment for the lifestyle cost. I mean, there's just a lot more going on to this than just the math that they're showing here for how long that money can actually last in retirement.
So I think one of the things that I've been trying to, do for 35 years is to get people to understand, if you're just in a portfolio only and you're withdrawing in a down market, as you alluded to earlier, the odds of running out of money go up exponentially. You need a series of backups and redundancies that basically create an environment that says when the portfolio goes down, because it's not if, it's when, okay, I cannot withdraw. And I tell this story all the time. This is burnt into my head. Somebody retired in 1999 and they have $500,000 and they're going to put it into the S&P 500. They do all the back testing. It's like 20 years of back testing. It's like a 12.5% return. They go to their calculator and they're saying, I could pull out a 5-6% return and it's going to be successful every time. Volatility adjusted returns, inflation, it's all going to work. And I retire. I have the unfortunate date of birth that says I must retire in 1999. It all looks good. And then I go through 2000, 2001, 2002. Over that collective time frame, the market's down 57%. I'm still pulling out the 25,000 because I need that money because all my money's in the S&P 500. Where are we October 2014?
There's nothing. It's just
there's a $23,000 check that you're now going to get to redeem the full value of the account. Your account is now closed. And that's the S&P, right? Because it's not, and a 4% withdrawal rate would have lasted a little bit longer, but you're still ran out of money because you didn't have backup and redundancy to go pull money from non-correlated sources.
Yeah. And that's where people too, again, they talk about Social Security and that we have that extra payment coming in. So maybe the portfolio isn't doing as well, but we still have the Social Security payment. And you say to yourself, well, if one of you pass, you lose the lower of the two benefits. Yep. The benefit's 85% taxable. They talk about all these different things for legislation, how to keep Social Security alive, means testing or reducing benefits or however it is. And that's what you're going to rely on. That's going to be your backstop to your plan. I mean, it's not.
And you're spending it all anyway. So it's not like you can't back off your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's like, you start looking at the ripples, like so many people, they're going to lose a Social Security. They're going to lose on the first death, right? They're going to lose potentially a pension or half of a pension. They might even lose, lifetime health insurance benefits that the spouse has from work. And it's like, okay, markets are down. I lose all these things. And now I have to pay for more benefits. I need actually more income from the portfolio. And it's not good planning, right? So these variables, 4% rule could actually be higher if you have backups and redundancies. It could actually be higher through proper planning. Can't guarantee it, but could actually be higher. you have to look at things differently than the way you look at it, right? That's, you've been with me for 5 years in the planning side of this, right? Intern before that. The biggest thing that I see, the biggest issue that I see is people don't have enough capital to retire the way they want to. But why do you think that is?
Well, some of it was enjoyment at the time. Other times it's that their spending is out of control, and they're thinking their lifestyle costs $5,000 a month. And we've seen plans where, it's actually $7,500. Totally different plan, right? So by the time that they get to retirement, they're talking to us and saying, we want to retire at 65 or whatever it is. The math doesn't support, maintaining that lifestyle compared to what they've saved up, because there was so much enjoyment and so much,
under saving.
Yeah, under saving that when it comes to the retirement, that I'm not going to work, I'm just going to live off this and Social Security or a pension. Turns out doesn't always work in the long term.
Yeah. So what I want to end with here today is this 4% rule is kind of depressing, right? Because you work for 35, 40 years and I got $1 million and I'm only going to live off of 40K.
Yeah.
It's not that exciting.
No.
There are strategies that you can deploy that will get you more, but everything has a pro and a con, but you got to explore them, right? So anybody listening today, if you haven't taken advantage of one of our wealth curve blueprints, it's the conversation, the wealth curve conversation, which is an introductory call. It's free. There's no obligation. I urge you to take one of those. Rob is one of the best guys to have that conversation with. And, if you don't like it, you don't have to work with us. So we appreciate you being on. I really appreciate you being here. Before I end today, do you want to say anything?
Mostly just when we're looking at this 4% rule, and we're really looking at the portfolio, it's all relying on that investment account to carry you to where you need to go. And kind of like what John said, it's more about layering, having different strategies to layer in, so that way not every dollar that you're trying to spend is correlated with, is the market letting this portfolio perform and letting it live out my lifestyle, right? It's about layering in those non-correlated assets to make you comfortable that when the market drops, your plan isn't totally destroyed.
Really good to have you. Look forward to having you back on. Come up with some new topics and we'll see you again.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.